Yo, it's that time again. Class time. Dhammapada time. Much love to you all. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today, Saturday, or whenever. Always great to see you all. Test the sound, check, check.
Saturday
Good, it's
or
working.
whenever.
Working great. All right, everybody. So, welcome. This is Jay Baldell. We're doing it again. You know the drill. Some Dhammapada study. And I had a high level Illuminati meeting last night, so I did not get a head start on any highlighting, but luckily it hasn't really been too much of a slowdown for this book. And on the verses in particular, I mean, right, like I could just highlight the whole verses because pretty much everything in there is good, like literally everything. And I guess I could try to elaborate a little more on some of those verses too. I mean, I guess I have been a little bit, but with some of this stuff, I just feel it's like it's just so self-explanatory. Like, why do you need me to explain what should be obvious at a certain point? You know what I mean? But in some cases, for sure, I feel it's very helpful. It's very beneficial to elaborate, to explain, to go a little more in depth, to try to make analogies, teachings, all of that. But yeah, with some of this, it's just like the teaching itself already said it perfectly. So, but hey, if at any time anybody feels that they would like me to try to elaborate on something a little more, you're more than welcome to speak up. And Zero, welcome. One True Goddess, welcome. Much love to you guys. Always great to see you guys. But I also get that it depends on what we're studying. Some things like this are a lot more self-explanatory, self-evident, at least in my opinion. But then certain other things too just seem to be a lot more of that nature also. But I get that maybe not everybody can wrap their head around it quite as easily. So I guess what I'm really saying is feedback is always appreciated from my fellow members of this class. Okay, music, chat, check, check. Let's see what the tarot is going to tell us and welcome in everybody else coming in right now. Happy Saturday. We're creeping up on Easter. One more week and we're going to be there. March is already almost over. The Aeon is already almost over, the old one. I don't know. I really don't know on that. It's hard to say for sure on that. At least from someone like me, there's probably people out there who have it real dialed in and calculated, but I don't know. Doesn't seem like it seems like the jury's still out because I'll hear people talking about the Kali Yuga's over. I'll hear people talking about nope, the Kali Yuga's still going and going strong, and I'll hear people talk about it or the Aeon of Pisces and the Aeon of Aquarius or Osiris and Horus, and it just seems that the jury's still out to lunch on a lot of things, and that's fine. Seems to be the human condition. And Furka, what's up? Welcome to you. Great to see you here. Okay, so let's cut this deck. Let's see what this card is. It's a swords. Oh, no. Wheel of Fortune, baby. See, there it is. The Aeon's revolving around right there. So Jupiter, I don't know if I've pulled this one for us yet. Or Koth in the Hebrew alphabet. Palm of the hand. You know, they say you can obtain a lot of information by meditating on the palm of the hand. Perhaps you've tried it. Perhaps you have revealed a lot yourself from that, or maybe not. This one's got a 10-spoked wheel, doesn't it? Yeah, that's 10. 3, 6, 9, 10. Yep. instead of 8, but whatever. We could still look at it as the wheel of Dharma to a certain extent. Wheel of the zodiac -2, whatever. We got all kind of wheels out here revolving and rotating around. But the question is, are you being crushed by this wheel? Because we also see Jupiter in this card. This card is also Jupiter. And the AKA Zeus, AKA Demiurge, AKA the creator, all of that. So are you getting chewed up and spit out by this thing? Or are you figuring out a way to hop on the merry-go-round and enjoy the ride? That's the question. And I suppose that's the energy today as the aeon is revolving, and we're revolving into that new aeon where it seems that more people are going to be coming into that type of an alignment as opposed to previously in human existence where people are just getting crushed by that dang thing. Or at least in the last few, they talk about how a while ago, like the Atlanteans and all that, would have been riding that bad boy and having a good time. But then, I don't know. I personally can't say on all that. I just know what other people say. And I know that right now, we should be getting back to a place where, yep, the majority of us are figuring out how to enjoy riding the wheel of Dharma, as opposed to getting smashed and crashed and having a hard time about it. And Mosam, what's up? Welcome to you. I hope you're having a good day. All right, then, let's read this book, huh? Let's see what this book's got to tell us. We should have some good chapters today. Starting with chapter 14, The Awakened One. Well, there you go. Because if we're all trying to hit that spot, and that's going to be this energy of the Aeon to a certain extent, then that's going to be sweet. That's going to be wonderful. But people like Dion, which a lot of them got their ideas from Theosophy, so from Blavatsky and Theosophy, of these different root races and these different evolutions of the race of man as a whole. And as we kind of progress through the aeons, through all of creation, through all of time, that these, and so according to like Dion, that man is going to have a significant shift towards that thing, but that actually it won't be until the race after that where like it'll be a pretty common thing for the majority, if not all of man, to be easily in that place I'm talking about with this wheel of fortune, where you're riding the wheel, you're understanding how to operate and move through the planes, all of that type of stuff. But again, I can't say for sure. All I know is what kind of stuff I study, and then also a little bit of the type of stuff I get from my own work. But I mean, a lot of that I'm still chewing on personally. Okay, so chapter 14, The Awakened One. The Awakened One, of course, is the literal meaning of the word Buddha, and most of the verses in this chapter describe the qualities cultivated and perfected by the compassionate Buddha himself. But to understand verses like 184, where the Buddha calls patience a supreme spiritual discipline, it is helpful to recall the backdrop of reincarnation that lies behind all the Buddha's statements. And that's what that Wheel of Fortune is too, the Wheel of Reincarnation. The kind of patience he is referring to is not just a matter of keeping your temper when someone is late for an appointment. It is a deeply rooted resolution not to swerve from Dharma even in the face of a threat to life itself. That's a pretty good one right there. And that's something we see a lot. We see a lot of people who they can talk the talk, but when it comes time to walk, they walk the other direction. They don't walk the path of Dharma. Thus, it connotes infinite compassion, unqualified goodwill for all creatures in all circumstances. In order to perfect such qualities, tradition tells us the Bodhisattva or Buddha to be had to build up his endurance for many lives, strengthening his capacities with one-pointed determination. This saga is said to have begun many thousands of incarnations ago in the Bodhisattva's life as Megha, a Brahmin youth who met the great Dipina, Dipankara, the Buddha of that age. So taken was he with this resplendent figure that Megha vowed he would undertake whatever disciplines might be required to become a Buddha himself, however many lives it might take. Interestingly enough, he also meets in that life a girl who exacts from him a vow that he will take her as his wife in every life, the future Yashodhara. There is not space here to treat such jatakas or tales of the Buddha's previous births in the depth they deserve. One can simply remark how they show the Bodhisattva's zeal in perfect qualities such as patience and selfless courage, preparing him for final complete awakening in his life as Prince Siddhartha. From another point of view, however, the Buddha's story begins much earlier. The Bodhisattva's lives prior to human birth are narrated in the Jataka stories, which illustrate movingly why the Buddha exclaims that human birth is a rare privilege, gained only after many lives of undoing, as far as possible on that level, the primal instincts and urges of the animal realm. The deer, Jataka, for example, tells of the Bodhisattva's life as king of the banyan deer, who offers his own life to a human king in order to save a pregnant doe from death. Sacrifice for others carries him one step nearer to his goal. Whether he lives or dies is immaterial to him, for there will be countless other lives to come. The only question asked is how fully one has used life's precious opportunities for spiritual growth. So we saw that just the other day on the chariot card, right? And then again on that wheel of fortune, this exact thing is being talked about too. Hold on, let me pull it back out because you'll notice once I grab it. There you are. That at the top of the wheel, we see this sphinx with the sword in hand, and it almost looks like the sword penetrates up through that veil that's above it, where you see these stars up here. So that could be almost looked at as the highest possible realm, and everything else below that. But that sphinx, its head is up in there slightly. It's crossing the border, and its sword is also penetrating the border, sword being the mind. But then down here, we see these two different animals. We see this ape of Thoth. We see this typhon like type of crocodile. Animal nature. Animal nature down there. Higher evolution, sphinx up here. Okay. Just as a human being over billions of years evolves biologically from a unicellular organism, the Buddha to be evolved spiritually into the Buddha by making the hard, unnatural effort to put others' welfare and safety before his own. In life after life, placing himself for an even greater leap next time. Well, and let's see. Highlight that one. The only question asked is how fully one has used life's precious opportunities for spiritual growth, and the Buddha to be. We could look at this in the Western, the Christ to be evolved spiritually into the Christ by making the hard, unnatural effort to put others' welfare and safety before his own. Huh. The Buddha does not suggest that ordinary people try to imitate such intense feats of renunciation. Like a brilliant comet blazing in the sky, he inspires us but does not leave a personal trail. Ours is to catch fire from his example as one lights a torch from a sacrificial fire. Verses 190 to 192 refer to the three refuges of the Buddhist: the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Driven by fear, people commonly seek reassurance from the world outside them. But in this transient world, there is no refuge that is safe. The three refuges require one to turn inward, depending increasingly on oneself alone, for that is the path to freedom from fear. The three are closely interrelated. Taking refuge in the Buddha does not mean expecting deliverance from him as a personal savior. It means following his example through the practice of his teachings. That is, by taking refuge in the Dharma. This, in turn, is most effectively done in the company of the Sangha, those of like mind who are attempting to follow the same difficult path. And then you can find that a little bit online. You can definitely find that online to a certain degree. I know I have with certain people for sure. But I don't know. I don't know why everybody's so scared of the outside. I don't know why everybody's so scared of like the people in their own town and all of that. You got all kind, you got all kinds of people you can connect with. And I trust me, I know. Because some of the people in my town, I'm like, man, I am not trying to hang out with them and talk to them about magic. I already tried and it was not a very good result. Versus others though who are very much though like amazing. Same similar as online. I get it. That's part of the circumstance of what we're in, but it does seem like more people are quick to gravitate to online type of relationships than to what's right outside their door. It's like Gandalf said, the world is out there, not in your maps and books. Gesturing to the window, gesturing to the outside, to the you've seen the movie. At least, hopefully you read the books too. They're good. According to the Buddhist concept of Trikaya, literally three bodies, there are three forms in which the Buddha, or more precisely, the Buddha principle, is manifested throughout the universe as a refuge for all creatures. First is Nirmanakaya, that human form the Buddha principle took on to answer the needs of a suffering world. The Gospel of John says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth." The same principle is described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, where Lord Krishna says, "Whenever Dharma declines and the purpose of life is forgotten, I manifest myself. I am born in age after age to protect the good, to destroy evil, and to reestablish Dharma." That particular Buddha, born as Prince Siddhartha in Kapilavastu, came to reinvigorate the religious practices of his time, which had calcified on the one hand into superstition and worship prompted by fear, and on the other hand into endless metaphysical speculation. This incarnation as the Buddha inspired an intense awakening in many people's hearts of spiritual self reliance, the faith to look within oneself and take spiritual growth into one's hands, independent of any outside influence. When the Buddha shed his body, Buddhists would say the Nirmanakaya was reabsorbed into cosmic formlessness, and that particular chapter of his work, which was dependent on his physical intervention, came to an end. According to this doctrine, however, the Buddha was never merely an individual human being, but like St. John's word or logos, an eternal principle temporarily made flesh. Therefore, he cannot be said to have ceased to exist when his physical body died. He remains active in the world as a living force which continues to exercise a beneficial influence. For his devotees, for example, the Buddha is still with us in his second form, the Sambhogakaya, literally the body of intense joy, a glorified manifestation of the Buddha's immense spiritual power and splendor, which, like St. Teresa's visions of her Jesus, can be experientially revealed to those who earnestly practice his teachings. And Fish Dog, what's up? Great to see you back. I hope you're doing so wonderful. Glad to see you. Yep, it's been a little bit. It's been a couple weeks, but I knew you were kicking around. I knew I'd see you again, so I'm glad to do just that today. It is this body of bliss that the faithful pray to and attempt to represent in painting and sculpture. Bliss refers to the experience, testified to by the Buddha's followers, that when Dharma is fully realized and assimilated into daily action, the mind is flooded with joy. The mystics of Mahayana Buddhism would add that if one is established in Dharma at every level of awareness, from the everyday to the unconscious, then at the time of death, this joy is not broken. This state is impossible to describe, but its promise is implicit in the Buddha's teachings, where it placed within reach of all human beings. There, I was covering where it is. That makes sense. Otherwise, it didn't make sense. Where it is placed within reach of all human beings. And Fish Dog, no need to apologize at all. Great to have you back. Third and most abstract of the Buddha's forms is the Dharmakaya, the body of Dharma. This is the cosmic aspect of the Buddha principle, one with the absolute, the unconditioned ground of every living creature. The Buddha may have shed his physical body, but the Dharmakaya, the force he drew upon to set the wheel of Dharma in motion, continues to operate. Never born, it can never die. Mahatma Gandhi said once that we can talk about a supreme reality either as the lawgiver, Dharmakarta, or as the law, Dharma. Hey, that sounds exactly like the Wheel of Fortune card, huh? Supreme reality, Jupiter, lawgiver, or the law. Either way. We see that in a lot of the aspects of the tarot, though. The Fool, Adjustment, Magician, pretty much, the whole dang thing says it in its own type of ways, more or less. Which is why you will find yourself rewarded greatly by studying into the tarot. Similarly, the Buddha can be looked upon as embodied in the Dharma that he taught, the law that all of life is one and indivisible. The Dharmakaya, however, is not an abstraction. It is the all pervasive Buddha principle acting throughout creation to relieve human distress. When the Buddha says in verse 5, for example, that hatred never ceases through hatred, only through love, he is, as he says, stating an eternal law which describes a binding, healing force. In the language of Buddhism, the Buddha is still active in the world in his Dharma body, inspiring and working through human instruments. Very swell. Okay, so let's see about this 14th chapter of verses. 14, the awakened one. He is the conqueror who can never be conquered, into whose conquest no other can ever enter. By what track can you reach him, the Buddha, the awakened one, free of all conditioning? How can you describe him in human language, the Buddha, the awakened one, free from the net of desires and the pollution of passions, free from all conditioning? Even the gods emulate those who are awakened, established in meditation. They live in freedom, at peace. It is hard to obtain human birth, harder to live like a human being, harder still to understand the Dharma, but hardest of all to attain nirvana. Avoid all evil, cultivate the good, purify your mind. This sums up the teaching of the Buddhas. Cultivate the patience that endures and attain nirvana, the highest goal of life. Do not oppress others or cause them pain. That is not the way of the spiritual aspirant. Do not find fault with others. Do not injure others, but live in accordance with the Dharma. Be moderate in eating and sleeping and meditate on the highest. This sums up the teaching of the Buddhas. Even a shower of gold cannot quench the passions. They are wise who know that passions are passing and bring pain in their wake. Even celestial pleasures cannot quench the passions. They are true followers of the Buddha who rejoice in the conquest of desires. Driven by fear, people run for security to mountains and forests, to sacred spots and shrines. But none of these can be a safe refuge because they cannot free the mind from fear. Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and you will grasp the Four Noble Truths: suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the Noble Eightfold Path that takes you beyond suffering. That is your best refuge, your only refuge. When you reach it, all sorrows fall away. One like the Buddha is hard to find. Such a one is not born everywhere. Where those established in wisdom are born, the community flourishes. Blessed is the birth of the Buddha. Blessed is the teaching of the Dharma. Blessed is the Sangha, where all live in harmony. Blessed beyond measure are they who pay homage to those worthy of homage. To the Buddha and his disciples who have gone beyond evil, shed all fear, and crossed the river of sorrow to the other shore. Okay, good stuff. Chapter 15, Joy. The Pali word sukha, Sanskrit sukha, that's basically the same, one less K, is usually translated as happiness. As the opposite of dukkha, however, it connotes the end of all suffering, a state of being that is not subject to the ups and downs of change, that is abiding joy. And I heard one Buddhist teacher talk about dukkha as a wobbly wheel. It would be difficult to find a more thoroughly researched definition of joy than the Buddha's. If we can trust that at least the outline of truth remains in the legends of his life, then his questionings just before going forth to the Four Noble Sights were chiefly concerned with the search for absolute joy. What anyone could want of worldly happiness, Prince Siddhartha surely had, with the promise of much more. But the young prince scrutinized the content of worldly happiness much more closely than the rest of us, and his conclusion was that what people called joy was a house of cards perched precariously on certain preconditions. When these preconditions are fulfilled, the pleasure we feel lasts but a moment, for the nature of human experience is to change. Oh, yeah. How many times have you found that? How many times have you found in life that happiness you thought you were chasing, it went away so very quickly? It was fleeting. Whatever it was you thought was going to bring you that happiness, it turned out to be a bubble that got popped. A nice shiny little bubble that was popped. And when they are not fulfilled, there is longing and a frustratingly elusive sense of loss. We grasp for what we do not have and nurse the gnawing desire to have it again. To try to hold on to anything, a thing, a person, an event, a position, merely exposes us to its loss. Anything that changes, the Buddha concluded, anything in our experience that consists of or is conditioned by component sensations, the Buddha's word was samskaras, produces sorrow, not joy. Experience promises happiness, but it delivers only constant change. Yup, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, did you spend money on an expensive course thinking that it was going to solve all your problems only to realize, dang, now I don't have money that I need for other things that are more important? Well, we all got to learn our lessons in different ways. We all got to burn our fingers a little bit cooking in the kitchen. At the Four Noble Sights, Prince Siddhartha could not even enjoy natural beauty because he felt so keenly how swiftly it passes. Nor could he feel secure that the joy he took in his family would be lasting. Once he had seen in his heart that change, disease, age, and death must come to all. He knew firsthand that a man can have everything and still be a dissatisfied. But he had also seen, it was his fourth noble sight, that one can also have nothing and live in joy. Clearly, joy was an internal state with no necessary connection with external conditions. Popular etymology sometimes derives dukkha from duh, a prefix meaning something wrong or evil, and ka, empty space. Ordinary experience is a void that cannot be filled by anything. It is nothing but change. Yet the Buddha, with his characteristic twist, proclaims that real joy can be found within that very stream of change. If one truly understands that life's very nature is change, then the burning desire to wrest permanence from a world of passing sensations begins to die. And as it dies, the mind begins to taste its natural state, which is joy, not a sensation, but a state of consciousness unaffected by pleasure and change. This is decidedly not a negative realization. Once we know for certain what cannot give joy, we are ready for nirvana, the highest joy. The path to joy lies not in depending on external conditions, but in undoing the conditioning of pleasure and pain, which excites the mind to search for satisfaction in the world outside. When the mind is stilled through meditation, one drinks the joy of Dharma, which lies beyond the scope of anything conditioned. Man, some good stuff in this one. It is worth mentioning that the Buddha classed all conditioned experience as dukkha, even the bliss of heavenly realms sought by the orthodox devout. Just as in dreams, one can enjoy the sensations of worldly experience without the fetters of space, time, and physical existence, the Buddha's audience believed that in heavens, like the realm of the gods, those with favorable karma could satisfy desires uninhibited by the harsh laws of worldly experience. But with or without a body, experience is still conditioned. It cannot last. Even from heaven, one must be reborn in the world again to learn to go beyond the pleasure principle and attain life's goal, nirvana. On the night before his illumination, the Buddha himself was tempted by the subtle, intense joys of the Deva world when a group of Devas, prompted by Mara, offered to free him from gross food and nourish him through the pores of his skin with heavenly nectars. Even these joys he spurned as obstacles in his path to nirvana. For him, joy is attainable on this very earth when a person purges himself of all impediments. The goal of life, attainable only on earth and in a body, gives the only joy the Buddha taught as lasting and worthy of all effort to attain it. All effort required to attain it. In this chapter, the Buddha tells us how we can recognize those who have attained this inner joy. They live not to experience pleasure, but to give, to relieve others' sorrows, and to return good for evil. One has only to think of the work of Mother Teresa of Calcutta to realize what the Buddha means in verse 198, or of Martin Luther King for verse 197. The Buddha was a stickler for verifying any spiritual attainment in adverse conditions, as well as for sharing its richness with those in the greatest need. When we find fulfillment in kindness, compassion, and selfless service, even when it means suffering, sorrow cannot touch us at all. And in the Buddha's terminology, when sorrow is absent, what remains is our native state, intense, abiding joy. Okay, 15, joy. Let us live in joy, never hating those who hate us. Let us live in freedom without hatred, even among those who hate. Let us live in joy, never falling sick like those who are sick. Let us live in freedom without disease, even among those who are ill. Let us live in joy, never attached among those who are selfishly attached. Let us live in freedom, even among those who are bound by selfish attachments. Let us live in joy, never hoarding things among those who hoard. Let us live in growing joy, like the bright gods. Conquest breeds hatred, for the conquered live in sorrow. Let us be neither conqueror nor conquered, and live in peace and joy. There is no fire like lust, no sickness like hatred, no sorrow like separateness, no joy like peace. No disease is worse than greed, no suffering worse than selfish passion. Know this and seek nirvana as the highest joy. Health is the best gift, contentment the best wealth, trust the best kinsman, nirvana the greatest joy. Drink the nectar of the Dharma in the depths of meditation and become free from fear and sin. It is good to meet the wise, even better to live with them, but avoid the company of the immature if you want joy. Keeping company with the immature is like going on a long journey with an enemy. The company of the wise is joyful, like reunion with one's family. Therefore, live among the wise who are understanding, patient, responsible, and noble. Keep their company as the moon moves among the stars. All right. Chapter 16, Pleasure. The Buddha is sometimes misinterpreted as trying to squelch human affection in pursuit of some impersonal spiritual idea. Nothing could be further from the truth. What he warns against in this chapter is not affection as such, but self centered attachment to what is personally pleasant. Attachment to pleasure is one of the most serious obstacles to spiritual growth. Aspirants can lose themselves in pleasure and abandon their quest for life's supreme purpose. And even if they continue to strive, they can get addicted to having pleasant things and people around them, so that they cannot face life's inevitable unpleasantness without suffering. The person who sees life as it is understands that the pleasant contains the unpleasant. Pleasant and unpleasant are not separate or separable. They are two sides of one experiential fact that life is change. This apparent paradox is well expressed in Keats' Ode on Melancholy. Okay, and oh, he has some of that right here below. Very good. So Keats, that this apparent paradox is well expressed in Keats' Ode on Melancholy. She dwells with beauty, beauty that must die, and joy, whose hand is ever at his lips, bidding adieu and aching pleasure nigh, turning to poison while the bee mouth sips. A, in the very temple of delight, veiled melancholy has her sovereign shrine. What blocks spiritual growth is not pleasurable things and experiences themselves, but selfish attachment to them. In a Zen story, two monks approaching a river see a young woman who has no means of getting across. One of the monks carries her over and gently puts her down on the other side. On the way to the monastery, the other monk is so obsessed by what his friend has done that he can talk of nothing else. A monk is not even supposed to touch a woman, he keeps saying, let alone carry her around in his arms. What have you done? Finally, his friend puts an end to it. I left that woman on the bank, he retorts. You are still carrying her. In Buddhism, it is the mental state that it is the mental state created by experience that is all important. Without the emotional charge, the experience itself is insignificant. The Buddha would agree with the modern neuroscientist. We never really experience the world, we experience only our own nervous system. Hmm. And what did Manly P. Hall say about the nervous system? All the dualities of human experience, pleasure and displeasure, praise and blame, success and defeat, produce suffering if we cannot face them with equanimity. That is, without the emotional response of attachment or aversion, which conditions us to crave or avoid such experiences the next time. In Believing in Mind, Sengson, the third patriarch of Zen, conveys the loss one suffers by getting caught up in life's dualities. I'm going to highlight real quick before, because some of this back here was great as well. And zero, incorrect. Close. And yeah, I remember when you did in one of the yoga studies, karma yoga, maybe it was. Okay, so the Great Way knows no impediments. It does not pick and choose. When you abandon attachment and aversion, you see it plainly. Make a thousandth of an inch distinction. Heaven and earth spring apart. If you want it to appear before your eyes, cherish neither for nor against. To compare what you like with what you dislike. That is the disease of the mind. Then you pass over the hidden meaning. Peace of mind is needlessly troubled. The hidden meaning of things as they really are lies beyond dualistic experience, waiting to be discovered by those who can travel upstream against conditioning. The last two verses of this chapter, which bring in the concept of reincarnation, were the kind that the Buddha might have spoken to some village skeptic. Someone wanting a guarantee that if he took to the Noble Eightfold Path and failed to attain nirvana, his effort would not go to waste. The Buddha likens his good deeds and spiritual practices to close relatives, just as his near ones wait to welcome him back from a long journey. His good deeds wait, and after death's long journey, they reward him with a splendid context for his next life. If he does not get far on the path in this life, the quest is simply suspended until he takes up again in a new context, with conditions more suitable than his present ones, but otherwise exactly where he left off. Okay, 16, pleasure. Don't run after pleasure and neglect the practice of meditation. If you forget the goal of life and get caught in the pleasures of the world, you will come to envy those who put meditation first. Not seeing what is pleasant brings pain. Seeing what is unpleasant brings pain. Therefore, go beyond both pleasure and pain. Don't get selfishly attached to anything, for trying to hold on to it will bring you pain. When you have neither likes nor dislikes, you will be free. Selfish attachment brings suffering. Selfish attachment brings fear. Be detached, and you will be free from suffering and fear. Selfish bonds cause grief. Selfish bonds cause fear. Be unselfish, and you will be free from grief and fear. Selfish enjoyments lead to frustration. Selfish enjoyments lead to fear. Be unselfish, and you will be free from frustration and fear. Selfish desires give rise to anxiety. Selfish desires give rise to fear. Be unselfish, and you will be free from anxiety and fear. Craving brings pain. Craving brings fear. Don't yield to cravings, and you will be free from pain and fear. Those who have character and discrimination, who are honest and good, follow the Dharma with devotion, win the respect of all the world. If you long to know what is hard to know and can resist the temptations of the world, you will cross the river of life. As your family and friends receive you with joy when you return from a long journey, so will your good deeds receive you when you go from this life to the next, where they will be waiting for you with joy like your kinsmen. Okay, chapter 17. Anger. The Buddha is not among those who praise righteous indignation. When he exhorts us to give up anger, he does not list under what specific conditions this should be done. It should simply be given up, and that is all. His concern is with mental states, and since an angry mind is out of control, the Buddha naturally counsels against it. Even if getting angry gives a sense of triumph or seems to ease pent up tensions, anger is linked with dukkha, suffering. Free yourself from anger, the Buddha says, and dukkha cannot touch you. Since freedom from dukkha is the goal of his entire teaching, he puts a high priority on the conquest of anger. Mahatma Gandhi offers his own example of how the energy dissipated in anger can be conserved and harnessed for a selfless goal. I have learned through bitter experience that the one supreme lesson to conserve my anger. Or I have learned through bitter experience the one supreme lesson to conserve my anger. And as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, so our anger controlled can be transmuted into a power which can move the world. Anger is controlled by non anger, here translated as gentleness or compassion. If a person is on the point of an angry outburst, the Buddha expects him to try to break it, just as a driver would brake a fast moving chariot. But a more practical solution is not to let anger arise. As a supreme physician, the Buddha takes a preventative approach. In the same way that anger becomes part of personality by indulging one's temper over and over and over, anger can be removed from personality by cultivating gentleness, compassion, and patience, all of which are part of what non anger means. The complete absence of anger, resentment, and hostility, then, is not a negative state of repression. It is a very positive state, as Gandhi implies, full of power. Non anger begins with right conduct, the control of one's body and actions. For example, not striking another person out of anger. Simultaneously, though generally with greater difficulty, one strives for right speech, never uttering harsh words. But most difficult is eliminating anger from the mind. When one has finally ceased to even think angry thoughts, even in sleep, anger has been erased completely. What remains is the unconditioned consciousness in its natural state. In the context of a comprehensive spiritual program with a supreme goal, this kind of discipline is not repression. Psychologists rightly caution that repression of anger can have a disastrous physical and emotional consequences. On the Eightfold Path, however, we are not asked to repress anger, but to learn to channel its raw power before it explodes in an outburst of destructive behavior, drawing on that power for spiritual growth. Always a pragmatist, the Buddha even goes to the extent of saying that he would welcome an outburst of anger if it really could help bring an end to suffering. It is precisely because it does not help end suffering that he urges us to curb anger at its source. The Zen poet Han Shan of Tang Dynasty, China, said, anger is fire in the mind, burning up the forest of your merits and blessings. If you want to walk in the path of the bodhisattvas, endure insults and guard your mind against anger. Mastery of the practice of non anger thus ends in the precious capacity to return love for abuse, an ideal of all the world's major religions. Dang. So you mean these left hand path, spooky ooky people talking about might is right and talking about Christ said turn the other cheek, but I say raise a fist, or I don't know, whatever dumb crap they like to say that they think sounds profound and cool. You mean that it's not actually profound and cool? You mean it's actually a bunch of nonsense? You mean that they're on some circus performance type of situation? Shocker. Okay, 17. Anger. Give up anger, give up pride, and free yourself from worldly bondage. No sorrow can befall those who never try to possess people and things as their own. Those who hold back rising anger like a rolling chariot are real charioteers. Others merely hold the reins. Conquer anger through gentleness, unkindness through kindness, greed through generosity, and falsehood by truth. Be truthful, do not yield to anger. Give freely, even if you have but little. The gods will bless you. Injuring no one, self controlled, the wise enter the state of peace beyond all sorrow. Those who are vigilant, who train their minds day and night, and strive continually for nirvana, enter the state of peace beyond all selfish passions. There is an old saying: people will blame you if you say too much. They will blame you if you say too little. They will blame you if you say just enough. No one in this world escapes blame. There never was and never will be anyone who receives all praise or blame. But who can blame those who are pure, wise, good, and meditative? They shine like a coin of pure gold. Even the gods praise them, even Brahma, the creator. Use your body for doing good, not for harm. Train it to follow the Dharma. Use your tongue for doing good, not for harm. Train it to speak kindly. Use your mind for doing good, not for harm. Train your mind in love. The wise are disciplined in body, speech, and mind. They are well controlled indeed. All right. Let's see. Kind of want to stop there because that gives us some pretty good stuff to think on. And I think I'm going to. Even though this next one, I mean, it's all going to be good, right? But the next one, impurity. But that seems like a good place to start class back up. That gives everybody some time to reflect on what we've gotten from class this week, to contemplate these things, and even to contemplate what impurity means to you. And then when we resume class, we'll see how that might line up with what the Buddha has to say about impurity. I think that's a wonderful idea. So we're going to do it. Cool. So that does it for our Dhammapada class this week, our class B this week. Tomorrow, probably take the day off. Got to do my best to try to put in some more time at work. And then Monday, we'll be back to magic. Eliphas Levi, transcendental magic. So I hope you are looking forward to that. That ought to be good. That ought to be some real good stuff. So far, I'm enjoying this kind of back and forth Class A, Class B, seeing how the classes line up, giving us an opportunity to kind of get a little bit of like a refresher. It seems like, rather than just putting it all gas, no brakes into one class, kind of hopping between the two. So far, has I've been enjoying it. So hopefully you all have been as well. I know a couple of you have I've talked to, but for the rest of you, and One True Goddess, you're very welcome. Thank you for your time as well. Zero, I appreciate your contributions to class. You might want to revisit that Manly P. Hall book study to find the answer that you were so close on. Fish Dog, great to see you again. And to everybody else, much love. Always great to see you all, even if it's just for a replay. Either way, live in the chat, replay, you're getting the knowledge that you are seeking, and that's wonderful. At least in this sense. Don't forget though to make it practical. Don't forget to put these things into your meditation practices, your magical practices, etc. All right, everyone. Happy Saturday. Hoping to see some of you in a class later tonight, but time will tell. We'll see. We'll see if that ends up going down or not. Either way, though, I know I will see you for sure on Monday. So much love, many blessings. This has been Jay Baldale, Class B, and the Dhammapada. Bye-bye.